The moment Lewis Hamilton's race engineer delivered the news over team radio, the seven-time world champion's voice cut through the static with a fury rarely heard from him in recent years. "That's ridiculous. 10 seconds for what?" It wasn't just anger. It was raw disbelief, the kind that comes when you know something fundamentally unfair has just happened, and there's nothing you can do to change it. What should have been a celebration, Hamilton's best performance in Ferrari red, his first genuine shot at standing on the podium for the Scuderia, had just been destroyed by a decision so controversial it would shake Formula One to its core. The Mexican Grand Prix of 2025 will not be remembered for thrilling overtakes or strategic brilliance. Instead, it will be etched into the sport's history as the day the FIA issued two official documents about the same incident that directly contradicted each other, exposing a crisis of credibility that has left teams, drivers, and millions of fans questioning whether the sport's governing body can be trusted at all. On one side stands Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari, armed with data, telemetry, and logic. On the other, an organization that admitted in its own paperwork that what it punished Hamilton for was physically impossible to avoid. The incident itself happened on lap 6. Hamilton and Max Verstappen were locked in the kind of wheel-to-wheel battle that makes Formula One electric, two champions fighting for every inch of asphalt through turn 4 of the Autódromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Hamilton locked up his brakes, ran wide onto the runoff area, and rejoined the circuit. Within minutes, the stewards issued their verdict: a 10-second time penalty for gaining a lasting advantage by leaving the track and not following the correct rejoin protocol. That penalty didn't just cost Hamilton a few positions, it obliterated his race, dropping him from a potential podium finish to a result that felt like defeat despite the pace he'd shown all weekend. Fred Vasseur, Ferrari's team principal, is not a man known for public outbursts. The Frenchman built his reputation on calm calculation, on choosing his words carefully, on maintaining composure even when the pressure reaches boiling point. But standing in front of the cameras moments after the Mexican Grand Prix, his frustration was impossible to hide. 10 seconds is far too much, he said, his voice steady but laced with an edge that anyone who knows racing could recognize as controlled fury. Lewis made a mistake, yes, but he already lost position because of it. That should have been enough. The emphasis on that final word, enough, landed like a hammer. This wasn't a team principal making excuses. This was a man who had just watched his team get robbed, and he wanted everyone to know it. Inside the Ferrari garage, the mood was electric with anger. Engineers huddled around monitors, replaying the incident frame by frame, checking telemetry data that told a story completely different from what the stewards had decided. Mechanics who had worked through the night to give Hamilton the car he needed stood frozen, disbelief etched on their faces. This was supposed to be the weekend where everything came together, where Hamilton finally showed the world what he could do in red, where months of adaptation and hard work paid off. Instead, they were staring at a decision that made no sense, watching a result they'd earned slip away because of what many in that garage believed was one of the harshest and most inconsistent rulings they'd ever seen. What makes this controversy truly explosive isn't just the severity of the penalty, it's what happened afterward. The FIA released Document 36 immediately following the race, the official explanation for Hamilton's punishment. It stated clearly that he had gained a lasting advantage by going off track. Standard procedure, case closed. Except hours later, Document 37 appeared, another official FIA communication about the exact same incident. And this document admitted something stunning, that it was physically impossible for Hamilton to follow the prescribed rejoin protocol under the circumstances he faced. Two documents, same incident, same organization, completely opposite conclusions. The moment those contradictory papers emerged, Formula One's credibility crisis became undeniable. Ferrari's post-race analysis backed up what Vasseur had been saying from the moment the penalty was announced. The team's telemetry data showed Hamilton lost over half a second during the sequence, where he went off track, not gained time, lost it. GPS tracking confirmed, his car slowed significantly as he rejoined the circuit, exactly what you'd expect from a driver who'd made an error and was managing the consequences. Lasting advantage? Where? One Ferrari engineer reportedly asked, staring at numbers that told an unambiguous story. Hamilton hadn't kept the car perfectly straight during the rejoin. That much was true, but the data showed why. At the angle and speed he was carrying, the so-called correct path wasn't just difficult, it was impossible. Hamilton's own reaction captured the personal dimension of this injustice. After the initial explosion of frustration over team radio, he maintained his composure in the media pen, but his words carried the weight of someone who'd seen this pattern too many times before. "I'm disappointed by the double standards," he said, his tone measured but cutting. "I made a clean start, fought fairly, but decisions outside my control changed the whole race." It was classic Hamilton, restrained but devastating in its precision. He didn't need to shout. The facts did the shouting for him. Because the double standard he referenced wasn't subtle. Max Verstappen had gone off track earlier in the race, cutting turn 3 in a move that would typically warrant investigation. No penalty came. Charles Leclerc went off, no penalty. Carlos Sainz went off, no penalty. Andrea Kimi Antonelli went off, no penalty. 5 drivers, multiple incidents, 1 race. Only Lewis Hamilton received punishment, and not just any punishment, the maximum time penalty available short of a drive-through or stop-go. The inconsistency was so glaring that even rival teams, organizations that would normally stay silent about Ferrari's misfortunes, quietly admitted among themselves that something didn't add up. The backlash from fans was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours of the race's conclusion, social media platforms erupted with analysis, slow-motion replays, telemetry comparisons, and side-by-side footage showing Verstappen's off-track moment compared to Hamilton's. Hashtags demanding justice trended worldwide. Amateur analysts and professional engineers alike posted breakdowns demonstrating that Hamilton had lost time, not gained it. The court of public opinion delivered its verdict swiftly and unanimously. The FIA had gotten this one catastrophically wrong. What makes Vasseur and Hamilton's unified response so powerful is how rare it is to see team principal and driver so perfectly aligned in both tone and message. Vasseur brought the technical authority, the data-driven dismantling of the FIA's logic. Hamilton brought the emotional truth, the lived experience of a champion who knows the difference between fair punishment and arbitrary enforcement. Together, they created a narrative that the FIA has found impossible to counter because it's built on verifiable facts and legitimate grievance, not speculation or bias. The broader implications of this controversy extend far beyond one race result or one driver's frustration. Ferrari isn't just angry about losing points. They're questioning whether the regulatory framework of Formula One can function as intended when the same incident produces 2 contradictory official documents, when identical actions by different drivers receive wildly different treatment, when the organization responsible for fairness admits that what it punished was impossible to avoid. These aren't minor quibbles about judgment calls. These are fundamental questions about whether the sport's governance structure is fit for purpose. The paddock whispers started almost immediately after the checkered flag fell. Engineers from rival teams, men and women who spend their lives calculating angles and trajectories, were doing their own quiet analysis. One senior strategist from a competitor team, speaking on condition of anonymity because criticizing the FIA publicly carries risks nobody wants to take, put it bluntly to a journalist later that evening. If this was anyone else, it's a 5-second slap on the wrist, but when it's Hamilton, somehow it becomes 10. That sentence, leaked and then repeated across social media and fan forums, captured what millions were thinking but few in official positions dared to say out loud. The penalty wasn't just harsh, it felt targeted. Inside the FIA's own walls, the cracks were showing. Leaked comments from sources close to the stewarding process revealed something stunning. The decision-makers had been under pressure to maintain authority after what insiders called the track limits chaos from earlier in the season. What that meant in practice was that the stewards weren't just enforcing rules based on the incident in front of them. They were making an example, using Hamilton's mistake as a demonstration of power, a way to assert control over a narrative that had been slipping away from them for months. The problem with making examples is that it requires ignoring context, and context is everything in racing. The timing of Document 37's release, hours after the initial penalty explanation, raises questions nobody at the FIA seems willing to answer. Why would an organization issue a second official document about the same incident unless there was internal disagreement, unless someone inside recognized that the first explanation didn't hold up under scrutiny? The admission that following the prescribed rejoin protocol was physically impossible should have triggered an immediate review of the penalty. Instead, it was released quietly, almost as if the FIA hoped nobody would notice the contradiction. They were wrong. Everyone noticed. Ferrari's engineers spent Sunday night and most of Monday reconstructing every millisecond of Hamilton's runoff excursion. Using GPS coordinates accurate to within centimeters, they mapped the exact path Hamilton took from the moment his tires left the track surface to when they returned. The data was irrefutable. At the speed Hamilton was carrying, approximately 120 kilometers per hour, and the angle at which his car left the circuit, roughly 35 degrees off the racing line, the so-called correct rejoin path would have required a steering input so sharp it would have risked spinning the car completely. The engineers calculated that attempting to follow protocol precisely would have created a greater safety hazard than what Hamilton actually did, which was rejoin in a controlled manner that prioritized stability over perfection. When Ferrari presented this data internally, the reaction was unanimous. This wasn't a judgment call that went against them. This was a penalty issued for failing to do something that physics made impossible. One Ferrari race engineer, speaking to Italian media under anonymity, was more direct. We showed them the laws of motion, and they gave us a rule book. These are not the same thing. The frustration in that statement reflects a deeper problem that has plagued Formula One for years: the tension between rigid protocol enforcement and the messy, unpredictable reality of cars traveling at 300 kilometers per hour, being controlled by human beings making split-second decisions.